All right, let me go back to recording. Good morning, everyone. Happy December. I cannot believe it is December. Come have a seat. Welcome. I'm Melissa Schwartz, the managing broker of the Realty One Group Paradise Valley office, and it is Monday morning, which means it's time for a mastermind here. I do have a few things to share this morning on some changes, and we've got some guests joining us today from our title company, Rock Title, and I'm looking forward to asking questions. So for those of you on Facebook and on Zoom, I'm hoping you will participate a little bit here. I think a couple other people were planning on joining there. I cannot see the Facebook page. So if you are on Facebook and want to send a question in, you may have to text me because I don't know that I can get back over to that. But let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Let's look at, let's hope this is the right page. Okay, so in November, for those that don't know, Arizona Association of Realtors changes their documents twice a year. November is one of those dates, and this November they made a change to 2 documents, although it's a very minor change. So if we stick to that just being our class today, we'll be done in about, maybe 3 minutes. But we'll see if anybody has other questions, but we'll try and stretch this out a little bit. So here is the red line version of the residential lease agreement. I like shortening that in my notes to RLA, but it is the residential lease agreement. Look, we can see the red line. Look, they changed the date at the bottom of the form. If you're ever wondering what date form you have, look at the bottom. They do put it on the bottom of our forms, and sometimes they're nice enough to put it on the very top of our forms over here. So what did they change? And it's a pretty simple change. They made a change on, I believe it is, oops. Yeah, all they did was change the date. No, actually what they changed right here is this move in, move out condition checklist. How many of you, I've got a couple agents in the office here. You guys online can unmute on the Zoom and comment as well. How many of you have had to try to track down the move in, move out form after the tenant has moved in? It's due 5 days later, right? How many of you have had to try to track that down afterwards? Okay, a couple of you raising your hands. Now, here's the problem. When did your agency end on a lease? When it closes, yeah. When it closes, not when they moved in, when it closes, which is usually, yes, when they move in. But so your position as an agent ended, and yet our contract documents were telling you you had to follow up with this other document, and it was a part of your contract. What was that actually forcing you into a position of? Being a property manager. And for those of you in Realty One Group, we do not do property management. So it looks like somebody finally got to AAR and said, hey, wait a minute, why are you forcing our agents to be property managers when in fact they're not supposed to be doing that? Now, some companies do allow property management, but Realty One Group does not. That is why we do not have something in this office. Does anybody know what that is? Aha, title answered. Trust account. Thank you, Roberta. Yes, Realty One Group does not have a trust account. We cannot take any money on behalf of a tenant and hold on to it or disperse it. Okay. You can let me know if you need help paying the agents, but we do not deal with anything with the tenant itself. Yes, we can collect money for the payment for commissions, but other than that, we don't collect money on for a tenant at all. And in fact, we had some tenant drop money by here that, I don't know, it needed to be refunded to the landlord. It was some weird thing. It was like, yeah, folks, we can't take that check. Please send it back. So it was the tenant wrote us the check instead of the landlord the check. And there was more money than the commission, so we could not take that check. We cannot have that run through our accounts at all. Okay, so that's what changed on this document. And then there is another document If I go to the move in, move out form, now it says that this is not a part of the checklist. So what does this mean for your tenants? Who is responsible for getting that document over to the landlord? The tenant is. So you need to instruct them that per the contract, they need to deliver that. Now, the bummer for me is, having done this before, I always held on to that move in, move out form, right? And now I'm probably not even going to see it. Now, why did I always hold on to that? Because I actually had a file on my computer for the for the lease. How many of your tenants actually keep a file on their lease? Let's say maybe 2%, maybe 2% of them, right? But how many of it, because I've got two very experienced agents here. How many of you have ever gotten the call a year or 2 or 3 later saying, I'm moving out. Do you have my move-in form? What was my deposit? I'm sure I paid first and last month's rent. So hopefully you have that part of it, but you may not have the move-in form or move-out form. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ask them to send it to you, and you can put it into the document. So if you are in our system and we've closed out a file, I hope you all know you can still go in there and put something in. If for some reason it won't let you put it in, send it to our front desk. But it should allow you to add a document as long, and you can always email it in there as an email. Here, that's actually, let's go show you that. If I can get to, let's see if we can get here. We will go to SkySlope and I will show you that you can go to archived files. It's going to let me in. So you can go to a file in SkySlope, and when you email something in, why is my screen sharing? Oops. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Sorry, folks. It did not like going from the one to the other. Let's try this. Hopefully you can see that now. Okay. All right. So when you are in your SkySlope, we are going to make that very small. When you're in SkySlope and you are looking at, well, you can go to archives here, but let's say we're just looking at a file. I'm looking at everybody's files, so I want to do that. Okay, let's go to, I'll pick on some poor person's file. Sorry about this, whoever this is. Fortunately, I don't know what these are. I wanted to have a lease, but let's just open Jenna's files. What I want to see here is I want you to see that you have an email here. If you email something to that email, it automatically goes into the Documents tab. When you go down to the Documents, if you see these paper clips, those paper clips mean that they've been attached to a file. But see, these other ones have not been attached to a file, and that's perfectly fine. You can leave them in there. They will stay in the Documents section. They're just not attached to any of the checklist items. So if you were to get a move-in, move-out form, if you emailed it to that email address later on, it's still going to dump into that document section. So it will just stay here on the file and not be on the checklist, right? So if I were to go back up here, oops, and go to checklist, you'll see any of those documents with those paper clips. Those mean they've been attached.
Listen, did you say that the move-in checklist is supposed to come from the tenant, and the tenant will give it to the landlord?
The tenant should be emailing it to the landlord, and the well, probably to whoever the property manager is, right? And then they should be getting the landlord's signature on it and returning a copy. It's supposed to be double signed. Now, of course, again, that lovely 2% of the time, how many times does the landlord actually ever sign it? Not often.
But do you actually ask for that in the file? Like, in other words, do you want to see move-in checklist signed by the tenant and landlord?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Okay,
But it's not required anymore. So the office can no longer say your file's not complete. I'm not gonna not pay you because you haven't sent in this move in, move out form because it's a part of the contract. They were previously saying, hey, you checked the box for this move in, move out checklist. Where is it? Your file is not complete. It now has disappeared. They will no longer be saying that. You don't have the lead-based paint disclosure. They're going to hold up your file from closing. Right. But the move in, move out will be gone.
okay. And then the commissions, the landlord, the landlord pays. Okay,
Yes.
and sends commission checks to the two agents.
Yes. So there are two ways to do that, which is kind of a hidden secret. If you're doing a lease and you have, say you have an agent from Remax and an agent from Realty One Group, you're the listing agent. So you're working with the landlord. You need to send the landlord an invoice for what they need to pay. Now you can specify that they need to pay Realty One Group. Let's just randomly say the commissions are $1,000 each, $2,000 total commission, $1,000 each, which is highly unusual these days. But let's just say that. So you could send an invoice. Usually write the invoice per the ER, dated whatever date the listing agreement was. You, Mr. Landlord, Mrs. Landlord, said you were going to pay, $2,000 flat, $1,000 to each side. Please make the checks payable to, you could either do $2,000 to Realty One Group, and then you would do in your CDI, you would show the other 1,000 is going to the other side, okay? And you would put Remax in the other agent's name, and our office would send the check to Remax, okay?
Okay.
Or you can have the landlord write a check to Remax and a check to Realty One Group, okay? We have to get a copy of the check to Remax so we can close out our paperwork showing that they've paid Remax, okay?
Okay.
But we actually don't have to run that through. And the only reason I would say that is in the past, it took a long time to get those checks, right? So we get a check in on a Friday, maybe it doesn't process on Friday, it processes on Monday, and then the check wasn't coming back till Thursday. So it was a whole week delay before we could even get the check mailed to another company. And you've got the other agent on the phone calling you going, why haven't I gotten my check? Why haven't I got my check? So today it's a lot faster. Our office has actually processed those a lot faster. So I don't know that it's necessary to do it that way, but those are your options. But we have to have a copy of that check because we have to show the proof of that. Other questions?
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Anybody online here? I'm going to try to jump off of this and see if I can see people online here. You guys are seeing my lovely screen that doesn't have anything on it. Shattervion, any questions here? I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second.
Nope, everything makes sense.
Okay. Any hot topics anybody would like to talk about? We've got some title people here. I'm going to put them on the spot here in a second. Well, here, I'll go over there to that and introduce two escrow officers for Rock Title here. I'm going to put you on the camera. Look, you're both on the one side. Roberta and Art. Any things happening? Obviously we know loan title fraud, land fraud is still huge, but anything else you can share that you're seeing that you would want to comment on? Whoops. Nope, they're going to be quiet for Monday.
I do have a question though, since you jumped into Sky Slope and I didn't know anything of what Sky Slope, what it did behind the scenes. So if we are copied in the beginning from the agent with a Sky Slope email and we reply to all, then that automatically dumps into Sky Slope. Okay.
It sure does. So those emails actually get stored in Sky Slope.
So that's something you guys want to make sure we do, or is it beneficial, is it detrimental?
I'm sure it saves a step.
I would probably ask the agent if they want to do that. Most likely they're copying Sky Slope on there simply to get the documents that they sent to you into the Sky Slope system. That's all they're doing. Because otherwise all your emails dump in there and they may not want all those emails in there. So it's really up to the agent. I never ended up putting my emails in there, but Did you end up putting your emails in there? No, Mark didn't. So did you know you could even forward that stuff in there?
No.
All learning something today.
We'll put you on the spot on that one. We're all learning something new. That's right.
That's great.
Right. So yeah, I think that that's the important thing is that SkySlope is a very useful tool and it saves a lot of documents that people don't realize you can have actually put in there. And that is very handy to have. I would say there's a lot of timeline stuff you can keep on track of by using that. It's a very robust system. So it's a lot of fun if you can work with it and use it well to your advantage. I like being able to email stuff. We're not rebooting my system right now. That would be a bad thing. I think a lot of people don't realize you can use that email, and I think that's very handy to be able to send stuff in. I don't know if I still have that open. If I do, let me share my screen again and see if I can go back in there. Yeah, it's still there. Let me just share again. So let me show you some other tip here. Oh, maybe not. Where'd my SkySlope go? Okay, there we go. All right, shrink this back down. So, when you're in here with the splitting, I don't know how many people know you can split documents. I wish I had somebody's file I could play with, but I don't want to do that. But you can split documents here if you've never seen this. That's what this split is for. I don't know that we have any that are big enough. This is saying 5 pages. So if I click this isn't a good example because it's probably just the one document, but it will usually split out. Yeah, see, it said 5 pages, but there actually aren't 5 pages there. So never mind that one. Let me see if there's any others that are longer here. So if you receive a whole packet with 20 pages in it, with all the document stuff all set up together, like the purchase contract, the spuds, the buyer, all of that. If you do that and you click split, it actually will recognize those documents. Sorry for going so fast. I'm trying to get back up to the top to get out of there, but you can use that to split. You can also email those documents back out. You can download files so you can put them in here if you have not emailed them in there from there. Let me see. Let me go to one of my files so that I'm playing with something rather than somebody else's. Let's see. I just. Do what?
Let's see what title company you're using.
Very funny. Let's go to the one that I just closed using Rock Title. Where did it go though? But it's not popping up. That's very odd. I did just close one for those that saw my post. I posted that specifically because why is it not showing up here? Let's see if this will work. I actually had the opportunity for the first time ever to close a deal with another Realty One Group agent, Epic Lending, and Rock Title. So there were all 4. It was all in-house, and it was actually a really smooth transaction. It was not, yeah, you guys, okay. The reason was the other agent was in Scottsdale. So, but funny story about that. The other agent was in the Scottsdale office, and the seller countered out the title company. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, you guys have in the listing. So please, if you guys are putting in your listing that you want to use a title company, you might want to talk to the seller and have that conversation, because we put what was in the listing and the seller knew nothing about it and countered it out. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, so let me go to my documents. I don't think anything came in that large because I don't ever send them in that large. Yes, I'm not going to be able to get that either. But So here's an earnest money deposit that got emailed in, and then here's another earnest money deposit. You can see, so I don't know why I have two of them, but this is the one that got attached, but you can see this is another one. Somehow my photos got in there. I'm not quite sure what those are. Oh, I bet, you know what? I bet these are the bottom of an email. Let's see if I open this. I bet these are the things that are attached. So every time you guys send, those get attached too. So let me close that. Because I was like, I didn't send any images. So the HOA, I'm trying to see if there's anything large to show you how to split that up. You don't have one there where you would have sent anything large, either of you?
Contact if you can. If I mean, I know-
Well, yeah, but I want to show you how it works, how you actually split it out. Does anybody online have one they're willing to let me open up? Do you have a current one that you would have had anything large in it? Do you have one? No, I never do it that way, but it's very cool because it actually auto divides it, but I don't want to email something into here that I can't use. So also on this, so contacts, let's go into the contacts here. So some people ask me, why should I bother putting in the phone number? This is, I'm representing the buyer, so I'm not representing the seller, right? So I don't have a phone number in there for them, right? But for the purchaser, do I have the phone number and email should be in here, right? See the little stars on here? The reason those are in there are because if something were to happen to you in the process of this file, guess what? If we get a call in this office and need to reach the client, we have no way to reach them, right? So please make sure you do put that information in there, because let's say you're traveling. We have people that travel out of the country, right? And if for some reason they can't be reached and we need to contact that individual, we need to be able to go in and talk to them and say, hey, wait a minute. But if I have no phone numbers, no emails, nothing, there's no way for this office to even reach out to them in case of emergency. So please make sure you're putting that information there. So let's see. The log, if you're not familiar with the log, actually goes through and it will go over to that. Shows when phone calls, no, well, not phone calls, when documents got moved around, or if there were comments added, transaction document, the purchase contract. If compliance had a question on something, here's compliance. Cherie Allen is one of our compliance managers. By the way, Cherie and Allen are both actual associate brokers as well. They have their broker's licenses. They're not somebody that does not know the contract. They actually know it very well. So please realize who's reviewing your documents. They go through and make sure every dot is put where it needs to be and every line is completed or addendums attached. So that's where those things are. If they're added notes that I go in and put in there, or if I'm asked to review something, I'll put comments there. Obviously, you're seeing different things there. Apparently we didn't have the West Newport Drive. I do think the system is very bizarre that it drops out the directional thing, depending on how it got loaded in there. So okay, let's see. Let me get out of there. Any other questions on Sky Slope? Good morning, Vaz. So let me get out of Sky Slope and open this back up. Let me go back to my lovely people here. Got a couple more people that jumped on here. We talked about the residential lease agreement change, which was simply to remove the move in, move out form from there. Any other questions? Because it's still very early today.
Can I ask
Yeah.
our title representative a question? Could you briefly go over landfill and title fraud?
Can you briefly go over that?
We were just talking about that this morning, actually, me and Roberta and actually Debbie, the two were talking about that. About possibly doing a class on that, and we both experienced it. Roberta did in her other company, and she was kind of explaining the kind of things that they would do. And we've had it happen to us, and I believe what Roberta was explaining, what her company did was probably a great way to handle it. And what she was saying they would do is when they got a transaction, they would email a letter, they would mail a letter to the actual seller, a hard copy, and ask them to verify that they are selling that land.
And we pull the address from county records, not from anything that's been given to us by agent or seller. Go right to county records where the last tax bill was sent. FedEx a letter saying this home is being sold, or this land is being sold. If you are not selling your property, please notify us immediately. Also would do some due diligence through the internet to make sure that the person that we have in escrow matches, like from their driver's license, their name, address, phone number matches what we find online. So we're doing a lot of investigating to make sure that the person selling the land really owns the land.
So has this actually happened where
Absolutely.
where the property is closed and then
Yes.
and then the real owner says, hey, what's going on?
Yes, it's happening
So
often.
what happens in that?
It's a total title insurance loss.
It becomes a title claim. That's where the title insurance comes in.
If the seller that we closed with, the fraudulent sellers left with the money, left town with the money, then it's, if we have to, title insurance has to make the actual owner whole.
But the seller, even though they didn't want to sell the land, is now sold the land and they don't have rights to it anymore?
Well, yes, so that's then goes to title insurance.
But what if the seller wants their property?
I believe that could be more of a legal issue, but I would assume that the title company could go to court and say, hey, this was done finally. The seller who lost his property still wants access to the property. The court might force
To reverse
judgment, like a judgment deed, conveying it back to the original.
We take
seller,
classes all the time
the original owner.
to keep
Sure.
our, to keep sharp on it, and had homes actually around the country, homes actually built on the vacant land that was fraudulently sold.
Wow.
What happens to,
Yeah,
That's for
that's
people
a
above my
that's-
pay grade.
That's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, it sounds like it could get real complicated. So talk a little about title fraud.
Title fraud, we don't see it as much as we used to. I mean, with title insurance, we're more aware of what we're trying to do. We're more, you want just cavalier about it, we're not much cavalier, but we're on it. There's certain things we won't do. Our title comes back, says, nope, you need to get this, you need to get that, you get. I will have to say, honestly, I've never seen an issue that we can't close on something, but title's gonna demand more things to protect our risk and our liability of insuring that property, whatever it is.
I think I'm talking
You're
more
talking
about,
outside
you
of,
see the commercials on TV,
yes.
okay? Make sure somebody is not selling your property, not pretending to be the owner of the property.
So those outside companies only notify you after the sale has happened, after the deed has already been recorded. They're watching county records to see any change in ownership for you.
Right.
Something that a homeowner can do themselves through maricopa.gov. But also your title insurance policy, if the buyer at the time they acquired the home obtained an extended or a homeowner's policy that has the additional, or in First American terms, the Eagle policy, that insures against post-policy forgery. So that would be a title claim. And then title goes after the person that fraudulently recorded the document,
if they can find
if
it?
they can find it.
Mhm.
Cause so many times those people are they disappear.
Right.
I mean, it's all fraudulent. So they just get the money and run.
So what
They-
can an individual do? An individual owner of a home, what can they do to make sure it's not happening to them?
You can't know of something that somebody's going to do. So you can't know if John Doe is gonna deed your property into their own name. All you can do is after the fact.
After the fact, yeah. You won't know until the document's reported. By document reported, title conveyed, you know.
It's gone.
to Records conveyed.
So all you can do is pay attention to county records and make sure your home is still in your name.
So as a company, let's say if, just to carry this out a little, let's say if you saw a recorded deed on the 10th, and that person who owns it now, supposedly, turns around and resells it on the 11th, wouldn't that be a red flag for you?
For us as a title company?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If we're searching county records and we see a deed like that, we're going to question it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Well, but let's talk about the situation where we have these wholesalers. Because they're sometimes buying it and selling it in the midst of the transaction, and you've got multiple parties stacked on top of each other. But that's not considered fraudulent. I mean, they're allowed to do that.
You're talking
But-
about assignments?
Assignments, they're assigning it, and you end up stacking sales on top of each other.
But the deed's never recorded into the different assignors' names.
Oh, it's not. It only goes from first to last.
First to last. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
But an investor, a wholesaler may acquire it, purchase it, close the transaction, and then within a day or two wants to resell it.
Right.
If they can sell it quickly, then that's definitely a document we're gonna look at.
Sure.
Title's gonna question why there were two deeds back to back.
Well, and I am finding some of the investors will do that, so they're not technically assigning it. There are a few of them will go ahead and pay those costs, but doesn't that cost them an additional title insurance policy? Aren't they paying as their
Depends on if they do a hold open. If they know they're gonna flip it, they'll do a hold open, and it's gonna be.
Save
just
them money.
It's gonna be their cost of the owner's policy when they sell it to the end
Okay.
buyer.
And just to explain on that, a hold open policy means that the first buyer, the investor, is not getting a title insurance policy. The title department's gonna hold it open until they get their ultimate buyer. So, and then the investor pays a percentage up front to keep it held open. And then they only pay premium from the acquisition price to the new sale price. So it's a substantial discount.
Wow. Okay, so they are getting a savings there that we
So,
didn't.
yeah, normally what happens is the investor will pay 25% or whatever that policy is.
Up front.
Up front.
And then when he goes to sell, like she said, he only pays the difference between what he bought it from for what he's selling for. He's not paying $290, he's only paying from, let's just say he went from 200 to 290, he's only paying that 90 gap right there.
Wow.
So it can save $1,000,
Yeah.
depending on sales price more.
Is there a time period where
5 years.
Is it 5?
5
5
years?
years. It used to be 2 years, but now I was surprised they moved it to 5 years. Yeah.
Wow. So those guys if they're actually flipping it, they can actually flip it and save some money on their,
Substantial amount.
so that's why when we get contracts that say they need to be with this company is because it does have to close with that company.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
And if you have a investor that you know is gonna do that, make sure he keeps on to his receipts and stuff, because if we know it's a fairly quick flip, we're gonna want him to do an indemnity agreement, letting them know that he's paid any contractors that work for him. And releasing, we'll need lien waivers.
Lien waivers, yeah.
You know, so
Paid
that way we
receipts.
know that there can't be a
Mechanics lien.
mechanics lien in there, because our window's usually 10 days, I think, from the time something's actually recorded, but before it shows up in our title search, it's usually 10 days. So that could have been something that was recorded 3 days before we closed, we'll never see it, because our records only go back 10 days, they don't go to 3 days. And that becomes another issue. That's a lot of times why we'll require the indemnity agreement, lien waivers from the contractor and all that kind of stuff, so we don't have the liability later on down the road.
Great information. Yeah, I was unaware of that. So, and now it makes more sense why when we're working with those investor buyers that they're so emphatic that they use their title companies.
A discount, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you wouldn't get that if they went to a different company.
No, it has to go through the same underwriter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if First American wrote the policy when they acquired the property, then they need to go back through First
But
American.
you could bring it to us though, because we are underwritten by First American too, so we could still get that discount, because we're still working with First American.
Oh, that's, so you could go to a different title company as long as the underwriter's the same.
Right.
And how many overall title underwriters are there?
No idea. There's a lot.
Oh, there are, because I was to say, I thought it was mostly First American
First
Secure.
American, Old Republic, Chicago,
Fidelity.
Fidelity.
Thought Chicago was
First
under
National
Fidelity.
Title, Doma, there's a lot.
Okay. I thought there were only a handful. Okay, but you guys are underwritten by First American?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, that's good to know. All right, Mark, any other questions?
Just with the hold open policy, are you saying that there's no title insurance for the amount of time that you hold it open?
There's title insurance, they just don't issue a policy.
Okay,
Yeah, so the title insurance is in place, there's coverage. But they're not sending out an actual paper policy.
okay.
But if you, something pops up, you need to follow the title thing, you still.
You do have
insurance.
insurance.
You still
Okay.
file with that.
Why don't they send out a policy?
Extra work,
Okay,
they're holding it open knowing that you're gonna resell it,
Got it.
so.
Yeah, it's been that somebody else.
makes sense.
Anytime you can
Less
save
work is
paperwork.
Less is more.
That's right. That's right. Anything else that you're seeing? I mean, obviously, we know land is a big issue. What about, I was hearing that they're now seeing some vacant homes that are being tagged for these types of fraud.
Vacant homes, we've even heard stories of the fraudulent person coming to the signing. They actually come with a fraudulent ID and do the signing. One
Wow.
within nationwide, I don't know what state it was in, possibly California, required the notary thumbprint. And after the closing, they discovered it was fraudulent. The FBI tracked down the person by the thumbprint.
Gotta have some chutzpah to go in there and put your thumbprint down and act as if it's all good and well and not think you're gonna be tracked
But
down.
if you're taking a vacant land listing, if you never meet the person face to face, that's a huge red flag. If they're from another country, that's, you hate to be that way. It's kind of profiling, but if they're from another country, it should be a red flag that they're not here in the US to sell this property.
Well, and folks, quite honestly, seriously, look, I've been a top producer for years and I still laugh when people call me and say, we've selected you out of all the agents in Arizona to sell it. I'm like, no, not doing it. And so if you are not a top producer, you have to ask yourself, how did they get your name and number and why are they picking on you? You know,
And why aren't they coming in person? They'll even provide a driver's license. Here, it's me, and email a driver's license.
And if they refuse to, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
If they're refusing to be cooperative and give you some information that you feel you need to verify they are who they say they are, that should be a red flag right there.
well, and I'll try turning this around. We had one of our agents in the office working with a co-buyer situation, and it was the grandparents that were the co-borrower. And I said, get them on a Zoom call. Like, verify that there really is Grandpa Joe is really there. And they did. They got Grandpa Joe, to their house and actually put him. Now, do I know it was Grandpa Joe? No, but it was at least better than not ever seeing this guy and knowing that he was truly going to go sign the paperwork at the closing.
And if they are legit, they shouldn't be upset that you're trying to protect them.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. And, you can have a lot of situations where you have co-borrowers or you've got sellers. Zoom is a great way to do that. Now, obviously, Zoom may not be identity perfect, right? But at least you have a face. One of the things I always instruct, especially new agents, but really anybody, if you're going out and showing rental properties, I wouldn't even schedule an appointment to go meet a tenant without a copy of their driver's license. And I usually don't ask for it up front. I wait until they say they want to see the property. So I've already gotten their name and information and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden say, oh, I want to see your driver's license. Well, if they've given me fraudulent information, guess what? They're not sending that driver's license over because it's not going to match the story they just gave me. And if they're not expecting me to say that, it can really throw them off. But I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't even schedule an appointment to go to a rental without your driver's license. And by the way, you need it for the application anyway. So it's not something on a rental property that you don't already need. You do. So for any of you doing rental properties, I highly encourage that you ask for that up, when you go to schedule that. And I used to send that out either to my associates or my wife and say, hey, this is where I'm going. I'm meeting this person at this address at this time. So I could get a follow-up call to make sure I was okay, 10 minutes after I got there, but at least they had the information on the person. But I love Zoom for that. Get on a Zoom call. Even if you don't have the professional account, you can go on and do a Zoom call for 40 minutes for free. So that way you can at least have the know who you're meeting. So
another thing, once you do get the driver's license, you can drop that into Google and do a reverse lookup to see if the driver's license matches the name and information and that it's not a fraudulent license.
And you can do that for free?
You can, yeah. There's a photo when you pull up Google, there's a camera next to it. You click on that and you can drop a photo in. And
wow.
Same with someone dating app. You can do the same thing, take photos that you've received from an outside source and you can drop it into Google and do a reverse lookup.
Well, I learned something new today. That's awesome. So anybody doing rentals and getting driver's license, go look them up. Make sure they're legit.
You can't be too safe.
Oh, that's very true.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You're being awfully quiet over there. Got any questions? He's being quiet. You guys have any questions? We've still got a few people online. If there's anything online, anybody? Shad, Marlon, Alex.
No
Beyond?
question. No question.
I heard, somebody on?
I was gonna say no questions. I apologize. And my son started talking. I walked. Sorry.
Yeah, right. That's fine. Okay, well, I hope you guys have all RSVP'd for our holiday party. It is tomorrow night. I hope we get to see you at Enchiladas. Please, you can still go do that. I've got a few, I kept some extra reservations in there in case people were last minute. So you have until today to do the RSVP. I just get to notify the restaurant. We might need a few more people, but places, but it's cool. We've got a live band. Come join us. It's tomorrow night at Enchiladas at 6 p.m. So ugly sweater contest. If you want to participate, if you don't, not a problem. You guys have a great Monday and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.